Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hello. Let's go. All right, Melkor. All right, let's do it. If you are new, my name is Connor. Hello, another beautiful day, beautiful Monday, my favorite day of the week. Yeah, hope you're all doing well. Let's get into it. Carolus Rex, Sabaton history. You got Indy there. Love it. Charles the 7th, or sorry, the 12th, 7th. Charles the 12th of Sweden, Sabaton history. The little blonde boy king. Let's do it. He died. I know how he died. He died in a very, I wasn't expecting it. But let's learn. I remember learning about him in the Great Northern War series. Oh, it's right here. Extra credits. If you want to watch me react to that, I already did it. Go check it out. Type in McJibbin, Great Northern War reaction. Probably pop up. All right. Preemptive like. Great channel. Let's go. So is Indy like the poster boy of all these great history channels? I've seen him on so many. Very well done. There's the Great War. A few other ones too. Very high quality history channels that he's the host of. Original link to the video, top the description below. Right below that, link to the Discord. If you want to learn about history, click on it. Don't be shy. Send you right over there. And right under that will be the link to my second channel, Mr. McJibbin, where I do more non-history related content. Let's do it.
He was the king who inspired an album.
Actually, two.
The king who inspired two albums.
Carolus Rex.
All embrace me. It's my time to rule at last. 15 years have I been waiting to sit up on my throne.
The history of Sweden is in many ways the story of...
And guys, I will, oh my God, I can't forget to do this. I will react to the, I'll find it afterwards. I'll find it. The music video to the song at the end. All right.
her kings. Since the founding of... The history of Sweden is in many ways the story of her kings. Since the founding of the modern Swedish kingdom, with the reign of Gustav Vasa and his magnificent beard, the course was set by the will of the monarchy. Breaking free of the shackles of the mighty Denmark, Swedish kings subsequently sought to enlarge Swedish might, with dreams of a new Scandinavian empire, a Dominium Maris Baltici, in the north of Europe and across the Baltic Sea. Sweden realized its imperial dreams and expanded its borders towards Estonia and Livonia, and established a strong Swedish presence on the northern coastline. This, of course, attracted the attention of equally ambitious neighbors. And as it always was with the dreams of mighty dynasties and noble houses, their ambitions were soon accompanied by conflict, competition, and war. Each Swedish king inherited the enemies and animosities of the past. Sweden had already crossed swords with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and with Russia, but it would be King Gustavus Adolphus' involvement in the 30 Years' War that set the empire on what would be a downward spiral in the long run. Although he would be the lion from the north, the savior and champion of Protestantism, his religious crusade had reshackled Sweden to a foreign cause, this time to that of German kings and dukes. With her commitment to the war in the Holy Roman Empire, Sweden missed her historical chance to build an empire on the Neva, and instead made powerful enemies. Denmark, Poland, Russia, Saxony, and Brandenburg were all soon eyeing Swedish expansion with increasing suspicion, waiting for a chance to pounce. Sweden's historical weakness was her place on the map, and the overseas possessions outside of Scandinavia were a nearly impossible task to defend. Sweden could field a mighty modern army, sure, but its population was small and the economy was reliant on highly competitive maritime trade, so Sweden was vulnerable.
Everyone sort of wants to be like the Roman Empire of the Baltic. That's not a great comparison. Never mind.
Scandinavia were nearly sure, but its population was small and the economy was reliant on highly competitive maritime trade, so Sweden was vulnerable. One political misstep, one fatal defeat on the battlefield, and the empire could be shaken apart. In many ways, it was a colossus on feet of clay. The second half of the 17th century brought these weaknesses to light. As Sweden's enemies backed her into a corner, more and more the nation had to rely on the wisdom and the courage of its kings and the strength of its armies to keep it alive. Notably King Charles XI, Karl den Elfte, who through ruthless land reclamation laws revitalized the country, rebuilt the army, and established a military caste that was deeply loyal to the king. With tireless ambition, he saved Sweden from the brink of collapse, but in doing so, he allowed Sweden's monarchy to become one of the most absolute in all of Europe. On June 17, 1682, become one of the most absolute
That lion right there.
in all of Europe. On June 17, 1682, his heir was born. Named after his father, the young Prince Karl soon proved himself to be a child full of promise and potential. His strong, stubborn character both impressed and unnerved those around him. It was said that once Karl made a promise to himself or to others, he would never stray from fulfilling it. If he was set to a task, it was nearly impossible to dissuade him from achieving his goal. Karl's father had lived a Spartan life, one that his son would imitate. The king had rejected every sort of luxury and regarded sloth and frivolity as the greatest sins a man could have. He taught his prince to be a merciless lion to his enemy and a generous lamb to his own people. But it would be Karl's mother, Ulrika Leonora, who taught her son the values of honor, piety, and charity. Although he would be a king to his people one day, in front of God he was just a simple man, a sinner like everyone else. Karl is said to have prayed at least twice a day and never missed religious service in his life, even in the field. In a way, King Karl XI was to his son what Philip II of Macedon had been to Alexander the Great. He left his prince a strong and stable state, a full treasury, and a the 11th was to his son what Philip II of Macedon had been to Alexander the Great. He left his prince a strong and stable state, a full treasury, and a mighty army. Karl XI died in 1697 of stomach cancer, and young Karl, just 15 years old, ascended to the throne as Karl den Tolfte, Karl XII. Historians do debate whether he was too young for the throne, for like most 15-year-olds, he was adventurous and impatient. Once he rode through Stockholm at breakneck speed, smashing every window with his sword.
You see, learning through the Northern War, few Swedish viewers, you know, I know I have some Swedish viewers, and I'm wondering if they kind of, because they're Swedish, they might be kind of propping him up more. Like, you wouldn't want to hear maybe an American talk about George Washington. Maybe it's not the greatest comparison, but he seemed more, as you would expect, I guess, a young king to do, a young person to be like, very energetic and almost seemingly foolhardy, but then again, it usually worked, whatever plan he had on the battlefield. And so definitely a respectful figure, despite his age. A lot of tenacity, and didn't lose when I would have thought someone with that little experience would have lost. So, all right.
Would a few more years of guidance by his father have helped him become a better statesman? Still, the many schemers and foreign diplomats who sought to exploit the boy king for their own advantage were soon to be deeply disappointed. Karl stared them down with an inscrutable poker face, betraying no sign of weakness or insecurity. His naturally frigid temperament and his taciturnity were his best shield in the first months of his reign.
They thought I was too young to rule the land. Yes, they failed to understand how to rule. My time has come. I'll chosen my hand. Say my name when you pray to the sky.
I love that part. That was a great part of the song. I was going to pause. I'm going to listen to that again. But this is my first video of the day. Sorry if I seem a little more tired than I usually am, but I'm waking up, and of course I'll watch the song. I'll listen to the song at the end. But this is a very great part.
My time has come. I'll chosen my hand. Say my name when you pray to the sky. It's the Carolus
That was really nice. Usually I kind of think of heavy metal of kind of it seems to me, and I don't have one specific music genre that I love more than others. I like music from a lot of different genres, including, metal like this, but a lot of the times it seems kind of monotonous, or a lot of them seem similar, and so when you get a song with a part like that that's very unique, it sounds very nice.
But despite his youth, Carl had clear ideas about how to run the show.
Don't tear me apart, all right? Maybe I didn't describe it well. I hope you know what I meant.
Unlike other kings before him, the estates had to swear their oath of allegiance to him not after, but before his coronation. Carl would not ask for their obedience, nor would he make any concessions to his rule. His authority was to be absolute and not linked to obligations or promises to those who were subjugated to him by natural order. On the day of his coronation, he ordered the members of the parliament to walk on foot towards the ceremony. Only he, the soon-to-be king, clad in full royal regalia, was to be welcomed by the church on horseback. Inside the sanctuary, Carl climbed a high throne, draped in golden cloth and scarlet damask, and took his seat on a chair of silver. By the grace of God, he was anointed king, Carolus Rex. After the sermon, he knelt in silent prayer. He would answer to God, as his mother had taught him, but on this earth, no one was his superior. So he took over the burdens and responsibilities of the kingdom in God's name and would lead as he saw fit. And absolute his reign would be. Carl would enter Parliament and interrupt whenever he liked. When he was present, others were only allowed to speak in whispers, and Carl had no qualms about openly reprimanding his chancellor. If it came to his ears that someone had refused his commands or spoken ill of his reign, his ire could be merciless. Even from the farthest corners of the country, dissidents were dragged back to Stockholm in chains, and if found guilty, were sentenced to life in prison or the firing squad.
Hear my orders, question me and die. What I say was said in heaven, and so it shall be done.
It seemed like
This is working
Sweden
out
was
to be
in
my
for a
favorite
rough
song yet.
ride, with absolute power manifesting in the hands of the boy king, who was not particularly fond of opposition. But despite his harsh demeanor, Carl was not the evil tyrant that he is often portrayed as. Quite the contrary. His character had a humane side, one in line with the ideals of enlightenment. He forbade torture and vowed to judge those around him based on personal merit.
He should have killed the Polish, or who was it? Was it a Polish-Lithuanian guy who he deposed and then came back to try and backstab him or something like that? He should have killed him, but if I'm thinking right.
He demanded that every Swede do his duty to the state, but every bit of hardship beyond that was forbidden. Carl treated those loyal to him with a hearty respect and valued their commitment to him with benevolence and rewarding gratitude. The first year of his reign had a sobering effect on the young king. Carl, who had romanticized the duties of the monarchy, grew tired of the endless line of ambassadors and ministers constantly pleading for his judgment. The domestic, peaceful life of everyday state affairs had no appeal to him, and while he cared deeply for the well-being of his mother and sister, he otherwise did not seek the company of women. Instead, Carl sought adventure, danger, and hardship. He was a born soldier and dreamed of
Kind of props to that. You're near this young king, a lot of hormones and whatnot, and you can do it pretty much whatever you want, and to still kind of pick adventure. Much respect to that.
greatness, of the glory that his ancestors had brought to Sweden, and of a chance to prove himself. At the turn of the 18th century, the dark clouds of war once more gathered over Europe. In the south, dynasties were arming themselves for the coming Spanish War of Succession. In the north, the old enemy Denmark was forging alliances with Poland and Russia, preparing to invade Holstein. Wherever Sweden turned, it would find enemies to fight, and Karl eyed Europe with the impatient gaze of a hungry lion. War was an opportunity for Sweden to return to greatness by rightful conquest.
That is a crazy picture. It looks
Was
like
an
he's staring into your soul.
Opportunity for Sweden to return to greatness by rightful conquest. In February 1700, Saxon troops marched into Livonia. The Danes invaded Holstein, and Russia set its sights on the Baltic provinces. What would be called the Great Northern War began. Karl heard of the news during a bear hunt. At once he returned to Stockholm, entered the parliament, and declared, I have resolved never to begin an unrighteous war, but I have also resolved never to finish a righteous war until I have utterly crushed my enemies. With these words, Carolus Rex set out to fight his enemies and decide Sweden's future on the battlefield. The young Rex set out to absolute in his power was to confront a coalition of enemies. His army was one of the best in Europe, a deadly tool in the hands of a skillful commander. But to safeguard the Swedish Empire, it was not enough for Karl to win a battle or two. He had to improve Sweden's strategic position, or it would be all for naught. With this in mind, he crossed the Sound like his personal Rubicon. There would be no turning back. Now, Per, you said he inspired 2 albums.
Yes, because the Carolus Rex album is available in English and Swedish.
Aha. See. So it is 2 albums. And now, something I got to ask you. You are a Swede, and I am actually now a Swedish dual citizenship. So I'm a Swede as well, but I didn't grow up there.
Ta-da!
Yeah, hey, thank you. Can you tell them what Carolus Rex means to Swedes? Because many of the South American or Asian people might not have any idea.
Yeah, and it actually is quite difficult every time I explain it because it doesn't make much sense. But okay, Carolus Rex is a Swedish king.
Yep.
Who was involved in the Swedish Empire time in history.
As we've seen.
And he is the lead figure of our album Carolus Rex,
Yeah.
of course. But he's considered a very controversial character in Sweden, not because of what he historically did, but what he has become
Right.
in later times, when he has become a symbol of neo-Nazism and right-wing extremists.
And hyper-nationalism.
Yeah. And this doesn't go very
Really?
well because obviously neo-Nazism was not invented in the 17th century.
Yeah.
How can you just claim a historical figure as some... Imagine like neo-Nazis in America just like claiming George Washington as a symbol. I don't know exactly if he is as significant to Sweden as George Washington is to the U.S. I mean, George Washington is everything to the U.S. But imagine like some hate group just like claiming the figure and being like, okay, well, he was around hundreds of years before that ideology even. All right, okay, that's frustrating.
And also, the king of Carolus Rex was quite multicultural, and so it's a bit controversial how it went down.
Yeah.
And this resulted in, when we presented the idea, we're gonna do an album about Carolus Rex, people immediately start to think, oh, you're gonna do a neo-Nazi album. No, we're gonna do a historical album about a king on the
That's
17th.
so frustrating. Oh, Jesus Christ! No, he's a historical figure. What does Nazism have to do with Carolus Rex, with Charles?
18th century
Nazi, yeah.
in Sweden.
Yeah.
But there were people
That's
who warned us, do not do this.
Yeah.
It's gonna ruin your career because you're gonna be considered the neo-Nazis and you're gonna be considered fascists and you're gonna be considered all kind of things. And we said, we will do it because we are Sabaton and we sing about historical facts, and this is historical about a Swedish king in the 17th century. And we have nothing to do with it was not us who decided that
Right.
he's gonna be a symbol of right wing in 300 years after his death.
I wonder how you would actually feel about that. But it's interesting you say that, because when I started working with you, when we started talking about stuff a couple of years ago, I have a friend from Griksbo up in Dalarna, and he said, "You sure you want to work with the Sabaton guys?" I'm
Dalarna?
like, from Grixbo up in Dalarna. And he said, "You sure you want to work with the Sabaton guys?" I'm like, "Yeah, I met you guys. You're cool guys." And then I knew the songs and the history. And he's like, "But you know, it's supposed to be like have some connections with like neo-Nazi stuff." And I said, "No, they don't." Again, and it's definitely
That's so annoying. That
100% because of Carolus Rex, and also because you released a version in Swedish as well. You know?
Which adds to the whole thing of nationalism and these things, and it's easy to be do it in
That's
a conspiracy
infuriating.
thinking that Sabaton is doing this in order to, I don't know what all kind of people do, but it was pretty interesting. So when we released the album, we had a lot of that people were going mental about it.
Yeah.
There were people who shouting, "I'm never gonna listen to this fascist band again," and things like that. And we were expecting some things like this to happen, and but there was a few moments when we actually like enjoy this attention as well. I remember there's an interview with a Swedish journalist who came with an agenda only to destroy Sabaton.
Okay.
And he faced a very angry Joachim.
Yeah.
And he comes with accusations that has nothing to do with Sabaton at all.
Okay.
And the journalist comes without having any knowledge. He's as educated as a person, I don't know, who spent zero, who never went to a historical class.
Well, why would...
Facing Joachim and in this and accusing Joachim. And Joachim destroyed him so much that this article was never, you couldn't publish it. The journalist was so embarrassed about it and had no more ammunition. And it's kind of, us spending, at this time, 10 years singing about history of wars and stuff, and then you come and try to accuse us of having an agenda or something like that.
I feel like all you have to say is look at all of my other songs. It's all about history. This is another historical figure. How can you claim it has to do with this thing?
When we are in that mood, we have quite a lot of experience of talking. And I do a lot of interviews. In a regular year, I would do 400 interviews. So if you come and you try to come and lecture me of what we can and cannot do in terms of Sabaton, we have the ammunition to really, we don't need to, but
it's they'll be like, I'm sure this is how it went down. Like he went up and they're like, okay, let's talk about the history. And they're like, the reporter's probably like, oh, the Nazis. And they're like, okay. And they probably destroyed them. But if you are going to do this, you better be damn sure that you know your history. And it's as if they went in with the accusation and trying to ruin Sabaton, that they didn't even expect to be faced with a question about history or about all of their other songs and how this is another historical figure.
If you come with that approach to us, we have the ammunition to take out. And if you challenge us on our battlefield, you're going to go down a very bad lane, that's for sure.
I can picture like that journalist not realizing that, like I can see angry Joachim. Let's get a picture of Joachim. Okay, look at Joachim. Can you picture him angry?
Yeah.
And it's like a bear, and the journalist is like poking him with a stick and stuff just to see what happens. But how can you not prepare for an interview? Like if you're the journalist going to talk to you guys about it, how could he not have done? That's what journalists are supposed to do.
You just went in there. Listen. So, politicians, journalists, and lawyers, all right? Though I see those three professions as extremely important professions that have a lot of crappy people who are drawn to, I shouldn't say crappy. Like, for instance, like a defense lawyer, a lot of people say like, and I have frustrations too, like when there's a defense lawyer, but they have a job to do, and just like a journalist does, just like a politician does. But the type of people they attract, a lot of the times you kind of get the best and worst among us. So I
research the topic before talking to the person they're interviewing, so they know what they're talking about.
In this case, he was prepared in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Not by
you
any
guys are
historical
Nazis.
facts.
Oh, you're right. Hey, take down the song. Like, what did he expect would happen? Like, that's a Nazi thing. Oh, you're right, guys. Take down go. Come on, get rid of the song. Take down the album, guys. He just said it's Nazi stuff.
But by only the angle of that you have just done something that should be racist.
Right.
And,
according to these people, it should be racist.
Yeah.
If you are a journalist in the future and you're going to be interviewing the guys in Sabaton, particularly about historical events, you may want to do a little research ahead of time.
Know your stuff, please. Just journalists. Just your job should be to. This is what I hate about the news today, and I'm not talking about any particular side of politics. I don't mean the right or the left. I mean I'm talking everyone. Journalists today, they go in. They think it's a job where like you have an opinion that you want to make sure is true, and so you go into an interview or into an assignment with that idea that you're trying to prove, instead of your job should just be to get the truth. That's all it should be. I know it's easier said than done, and I've never had the job, but I don't know. It's just I could talk about this forever.
You know something about those historical events and can put them into a relevant context when you're talking to these guys that spend their entire life writing about those things and learning about those things. So keep that in mind.
No, man, you're not. Man, sorry. Quit.
Episodes of Sabaton history.
We're gonna listen. Oh, this sounds like a good one. Sorry, guys, I stopped it right before it ended here.
Thank you everybody for watching, and thank you everybody for supporting. And those who don't do it, click the bell, subscribe, and become a patron.
Do all the things.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, guys. All right, I'm going to pull up the song. Going to react to that quick. Then I'm going to go to the gym. Alrighty, boys, let's do it. Carolus Rex. Lyrics, English and Deutsch. Sabaton, let's go. I have resolved never to start an unjust war, but never to end a legitimate one except by defeating my enemies, King Charles XII of Sweden. Jeez, I can't. Ich habe beschlossen, einen Ungerechtigkeitskrieg zu führen. I have a feeling this is going to be my favorite one, just because of the snippets I heard in the video. I'm blasting it. That guitar.
All embrace me. It's my time to rule at last. 15 years have I been waiting to sit up on my throne. No allegiance, I will swear no oath. From by God, not by the church, as my power is divine. They thought I was too young to rule the land. Yes, they failed to understand or to rule. My time has come. I was chosen by heaven. Say my name when you pray to the sky. See Carolus Rex.
Oh, this one's great.
Rude in battle,
I love the part after this.
For myself, I am claimed the throne born to rule. My time is now. I was chosen by heaven. Say my name when you pray to the sky. See Carolus rise. With the Lord my protection. Make them bow to my will. To the sky.
See Carolus rise.
See Carolus rise.
This is my favorite one yet.
All the night shall be mine, there's no stopping me. All over Europe, my rule shall be questioned by none. All I say, give to me, that is my decree. My will be done.
I wish I could play guitar like that.
Thought I was too young to rule the land. Youngsters they fail to understand how to rule. My time is
Right here.
I was chosen by heaven. Say my name when you pray to the sky. See Carolus rise. To the sky. To the sky. See Carolus rise. To the sky. See Carolus rise.
That was awesome. That was 5 minutes. That was my favorite one yet. I love the main part to it. Awesome. I might even listen to that at the gym, honestly. Yeah, I'm gonna head there. I went yesterday. I promised I would keep going myself. Awesome video. I'll be back with more videos today for sure. See you guys next time.